Hello everyone, my name is Alex. I'm a 2000 rated over-the-board chess player, and in this series we are trying to climb to as high a rapid elo as we possibly can, and I'll be explaining all my moves for your education and entertainment. So we open with e4, and we'll see what my opponent goes for. I think he recognizes me because he's messaging me in the chat. But we'll go for an Alapin Sicilian, just like we did yesterday in, the video before this one. And in that game, my opponent played g6, which is not a particularly good move. But here my opponent plays the principled move of d5. And here we should go ahead and take. Sorry, he is messaging me in the chat. Anyway, so the point is that we are going to play d4. It will happen, but we need to prepare. So we want to start with knight to f3 to add more support to the d4 square. And one of the key lines here is bishop to g4, trying to pin the knight. And then after something like bishop to e2, we can still go for the d4 ideas. After knight to c6, I mean, I'm really trying to remember my theory because I'm not that familiar with this opening just yet. I believe d4 is a move. I also think knight to a3 is a move. But I think knight a3 works in conjunction with d4. So if d4, bishop g4, bishop e2, bishop takes, well, then the queen is under attack, so that's no problem. So I think d4 makes sense in this position. Yeah, that looks perfectly fine to me. My opponent goes bishop to f5. Bishop f5 looks like a strange move. What happens after knight a3? If pawn a6... which is a very common move. I feel like we're doing quite well. Let's go knight a3. It's just a very tricky move. And the knight has lots of different options, right? b5 is the most obvious move, trying to go into c7. Like, forking absolutely everything. That's the obvious idea. But also the knight can come to c4 to look at the e5 square, look at the e3 square with a nice fork, look at b6 if a6 is played, which would be another fork. Like this. Or we could even put the knight back to c2, just to defend the d4 square, or rotate to e3. So the knight on a3 looks very strange, but since it can't be taken by this bishop to ruin the pawn structure, it's actually really well placed, and it's a really tricky move in lots of different lines. Sorry, the opponent keeps talking to me in the chat. He's asking whether he will find this game on YouTube, which he will. Now, if I remember correctly, after the move bishop to g4, the key move is to take on c5, which is a very strange looking move, but it is the key move. And if something like take and take, we can hold on to the pawn on c5, play something like king c2, pawn b4, that kind of thing. There's some interesting lines after e5, e4, going after the pinned knight. But after bishop to f5, knight to a3 looks better to me because our center is perfectly fine. Black is not threatening to win the pawn, which he would be if he were to go bishop to g4, right? Then he would be threatening to play something like take and then take on d4 and just be winning a pawn outright. So with bishop to f5, it seems a bit wrong. There are lines with pawn e6 and knight to f6 and bishop g4. I think those are the main moves, or taking, I suppose. But one of the key ideas in this opening as well is if black takes on d4, after we take back, yes, we have an isolated pawn, but now that our pawn is no longer on c3, we can look to play knight c3 with tempo on the queen, push moves like d5 if possible with tempo on the knight, and have quite an aggressive position. So my opponent goes pawn a6, stopping knight to b5. And, I mean, knight c4 just looks correct, looking for knight b6 or knight to e3. That, I suppose if we go to b6, there is queen to e4 check getting out of the way. So there is that. But if knight c4, I mean, what can black do? If he takes on d4, we take back, I assume. Okay. There is bishop c4 as well, but we kind of want the c4 square for the knight. c4 d5 would be an interesting idea, except after c4 there is queen to e4. and then black can just take, and we're in a bit of trouble. Bishop d3 also looks viable, offering a bishop trade. I'm not sure I want a bishop trade, though. Taking on c5 is interesting, actually. Queen takes, bishop e3. Yeah, that is quite nice. If take, and take, I think we can hold on to the pawn relatively easily. So I think this makes the most sense of d takes c5. And one of the reasons I'm playing this move is because this pawn is not yet on e6 or e5, but normally on e6, which would mean the bishop could take back, which would be a much more natural way for black to develop. Whereas now the queen has to take back, or black has to go for a queen trade, where yes, he can stop our king from castling, but we're up a pawn, and we will have a 4-on-2 on the queen side. Also worth noting, this is very common in lots of Alapin positions, where we get this 3 versus 2 structure, so all endgames favour white, really, because it's relatively easy for us to create a passed pawn on the queen side, whereas it's hard for black to create a passed pawn on the king side. So, okay, queen takes c5. I mean, bishop e3 looks like an automatic move, developing with tempo. e3 is a good square for the bishop anyway, so I don't really see a reason not to play it. And this is one of the ideas of, right at the beginning of the opening, taking on d5, is that the queen on d5 is a vulnerable piece. Yes, the queen can't be hit with knight to c3, right? Like, right at the beginning of the game, knight c3 isn't a move, which is the normal way to punish a Scandinavian-esque queen on d5. But it can still be vulnerable to other ideas, as we're seeing now, which is obviously good. Where should this queen go? She doesn't have all that many squares, to be honest. She does not have many squares. And yeah, a5 chosen, which seems to invite the move knight c4, looking to come into b6, maybe. Also, bishop b6 could be useful. If knight c4, where can the queen go? If queen back to c7, bishop b6, queen f4, maybe? Okay. What else can we do? We don't have to go for it. We could play something like bishop to c4. Actually, queen b3 looks quite nice. Targeting b7 and f7, maybe preparing bishop c4 with tempo. If queen b3, b7 needs to be defended. So let's say pawn to b5. That does stop knight to c4, so let's bear that in mind. Although, we could maybe sack the knight and play bishop b5. Although I guess bishop d7 defends. Bishop d7. Yeah, we can't take and go knight e5. Okay, so queen b3, pawn b5. What do we do then? If I can figure this out, I'll probably play it. What do we do? Oh, wait. Do we just have queen d5? Forking the knight and the bishop? Bishop back to d7. Looks forced. Then knight to e5. The knight can't move because I take the rook. Oh yeah, that looks completely winning. Let's go queen b3. Yeah, so the only move I'm really concerned about is b5. Because b5 makes my development more difficult. Because I want to play either knight or bishop to c4. That much is clear. So I don't want to be hindering my development. But again, yeah, b5 I think just walks into queen to d5. And you can see how quickly we're getting developed as well. Like, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces out. Our bishop is participating in the game, even though it isn't developed yet. Our rook is ready to join the party. We should be able to develop the bishop to be honest, it will probably end up on e2, where it will be strong, because if this knight moves and it comes to f3, this is a lovely diagonal. And then we'll castle, and we will have a lovely, lovely position. Yeah, doesn't that just lose on the spot? This was my whole idea with queen d5. And again, yeah, my opponent is looking to play b5 because it's the clear move to try to stop what I'm doing, because it takes the pressure off of b7, which is weak, and it stops me from putting my knight or my bishop on c4, which is a key square. But again, yeah, queen d5, forking the pieces. The only way to defend both is bishop back to d7. You're also seeing just how much we're punishing black for not playing e6. e6 should have been played ages ago. And now I believe the game just ends after knight to e5. Knight e5 ends the game because you can't... Wait. No, sorry, there's not this because of this. Of course, yeah. So the problem is that everything is under attack. f7 is under attack. The bishop is under attack. The knight is under attack. The rook on a8 is x-rayed. So I think the very, very best that black can do might be knight f6, giving up the f7 pawn. He goes queen to c7, which again gives up the f7 pawn. Not like he has a choice. I'm just trying to see if there's anything else we can do. Obviously, queen f7 should be winning. Castle queenside looks interesting, to be fair, because if the knight is taken with the knight, we take on a8 and we just win. If castle queenside, a knight to f6, because we're threatening the bishop, queen f7 can still be played, which looks winning, but we could just play queen f7 immediately. King d8. If castle queenside, the queen can't take as a mate on d7. If e6, take, and we just win a pawn. Sorry, not a pawn, a piece. Castle queenside looks stronger. Rook d8 is never a move as well, because f7 is mate. So I'm trying to be accurate here. I mean, we could also go knight f7, but then we have some complications after knight f6, which I don't really want. I think castle queenside, because I don't see a way for black to defend, because we're simply threatening the bishop. If the knight is taken with the queen, the bishop hangs. If the knight is taken with the knight, the rook hangs. f7 is still under attack. So I think, yeah, castle queenside. And we are playing with, what, I guess... I would include the bishop because there could be sacrifices on b5. We're playing with so many pieces, and the black king side is completely undeveloped. The entire king side is on its original squares for the black pieces. And don't get me wrong, in this position, if you just wanted to play queen takes f7, to be fair, after king d8 and knight d7, maybe that's cleaner. I don't know, because the queen can't take because of rook d1. And if the king takes castle queenside with check, king c8. Oh, also the bishop hangs, which I've completely missed. So if to be fair, yeah, here, knight f7 check. That is completely game over. Okay, yeah, I probably should have played that, but this is still winning. This is still winning, and the point is we have queen takes a8 check. And we'll go up an exchange, I think, which I could have been up more if I'd have realized, but this is still fine. This is still fine. Just slightly inaccurate. Okay, bishop c8. Let me think a second. Can we do this? Or in fact, we could go for this or this. There's so many ways to win. So many ways, but we're up in exchange for now. If bishop b6, of course, if this is taken, then this is checkmate. So the queen can't walk away from the bishop. If the queen goes to c6, it is defended by the knight, except... Oh no, rook d8 is mate. Oh yeah, this is game over. This is game over, bishop b6. Lovely move. And we have too many threats. The queen is under attack, the bishop is under attack, rook d8 will be checkmate. And yeah, that's about it. And the black king side, nothing has moved. Nothing has moved, and the game is about to end. That's the problem. This is why I was saying moves like e6 or knight to f6 should have been played earlier. But my opponent clearly didn't sense the danger. And it is difficult. Like, this is why the Alapin Sicilian is so tricky. Like, people do not play the Sicilian, and this is checkmate on d8. People do not play the Sicilian for these types of closed center games, right? Like, in this position, this is not a typical Sicilian structure. Normally, in the Sicilian, we have something like knight f3, I don't know, knight c6, pawn d4, take and take. This is a typical structure in the Sicilian. And this is very, very different to what we had. This is so different. And you can see just how tricky it is. Checkmate in, what, 15 moves against the 2200? That's pretty good going. GG to my opponent. I know just how difficult the Alapin is. But let's jump into the analysis and see what the computer has to say. Alright, so 76.6% accuracy for us. It looks like there were other ways we could have won that. So we'll see that. And my opponent 51.1, I mean. That's a bit harsh. But let's jump into it. So, okay, this is this is going to be an interesting analysis, even though it's such a short game. So, c3. Basically, black has two moves here. Knight f6 and pawn d5. These are the only moves. Although, you very often see moves like knight c6, pawn d6, pawn g6, as we've seen in in previous videos in the Alapin. So d5, take. And by the way, I'm not very experienced with the Alapin just yet. I probably have less than 10 games in it so far, so I'm really trying to learn it because it's so good. So knight f3, preparing to play d4. I mean, you can play d4 immediately, like, you can, but knight f3 is always on the board. And black can't really play e5, trying to clamp down on it in like a Maroczy fashion. I think you can still play d4. After take, and take. Queen takes, knight takes. You can get to this endgame where white is just slightly better. There are some interesting lines after knight f6, knight c3, queen d4, knight d4. Something like bishop to c5, knight b5, bishop b6. These are very nice positions for white, in my opinion. My opponent goes knight c6, we go d4. He goes bishop f5, which did feel just a bit wrong. It felt a bit wrong. Normally, you see knight f6, pawn e6, or bishop g4. Those are the main moves you see. And after something like bishop to g4, I think bishop e2 is a move, but dc5 is the interesting line. After queen d1, king d1, castle queenside with check. I believe the move is bishop d2. And if e5, trying to attack the c5 pawn, b4, if e4, it looks like you're losing the knight, except you have h3, counter-attacking the bishop, so if take, then take. And if the bishop retreats, then g4, if take, then take. And if the bishop retreats again, knight h4, and we're going to be getting the bishop anyway. And this 4v2 should be very nice. So bishop f5, I go knight a3, which is not the best move. Bishop e3 is the best. Oh, I guess we're just threatening to take. And if this is taken, then knight takes. If knight takes, c takes. And then we're going to play knight c3. And we're almost winning, apparently. Black has to play this. If he plays anything else, knight c3 and the game is over. Really? Oh, yeah, just bishop b5. That's bad. So I went knight a3. And it's inaccurate. But only if black finds the best move, which is cd4. And here, I thought I could play knight b5. I thought I could play this. Threatening knight c7 check. So normally these lines go something like rook c8, and then I can take on d4, so I don't have to give myself an isolated pawn. Except I missed that black could just castle queenside. And then this is defended, and knight c7 is stopped. I think knight a3 is the move after knight f6. Is that it? After knight a3... No, bishop g4, apparently. Although knight a3 is a move. But anyway, he went a6, which is the most natural move, except it's not good. Here, dc5 is good, but not the best. Bishop c4 is best. Which I saw, but I didn't... Oh, I guess we're threatening d5. So if the queen retreats, d5 is crushing. Like, knight a5, knight e5, the game is almost over. Getting this d5 move is very thematic. But I thought that he could go queen to e4 check. Bishop e3, e6, and then we just castle. The thing is, I thought that my bishop on c4 was stopping my knight from developing. That was my reasoning for not going bishop c4. The engine doesn't seem to care. I don't know where our knight is supposed to go, because it can't come to c2. But I guess that's just not relevant, because the rest of our pieces are more powerful. I don't know. But a6, I go dc5, which is the second best move. I did consider knight c4, looking for this. But I thought he could just go queen e4 check, and then take on d4. So then knight b6 doesn't come with a fork. Here, this is apparently good. If this is taken, I assume bishop f3. And yeah, this is crushing. If knight d4, c d4, again, if this, then I assume this. So rook d8 is the only move. Bishop e3 is good. Knight e3 is good. Here. I'd take this every day with the white pieces, though, for sure. But dc5, he takes on c5. I was expecting queen d1, and after king d1, I thought I could hang on to the pawn. If something like pawn e6, like, I don't know, bishop e3, knight f6, here knight d4 is quite strong. If takes, knight f5, if takes, I can take back, of course. So I'm doing very well. But queen c5, and after bishop e3, I'm just in the driver's seat. Like, the engine here says knight c4 is the best move, but the analysis is telling me otherwise. So I think the game review is slightly wrong there. And the queen just has no moves. Basically, it's a5 or d6. And on d6, while I can take and follow with knight c4, which looks very nice, I could also just play like queen a4. Preparing rook d1, knight b5 is a move, because if take, the rook hangs. And you can see how all of my pieces are about to swarm the black queen side. And the king side has 0 development. So queen a5 played. I go queen b3. Not the best move. Knight c4 is better. I couldn't figure out what to do after queen c7, bishop b6, queen f4. This is where I got stuck. Here the engine suggests g3, queen e4, knight e3. And I guess there's no rook d8. Bishop g2 castle. I suppose we do have very nice pressure. Yeah. But I couldn't quite figure this position out, basically. So queen b3. And the thing is here, there's only one move for black, and it's queen c7. And then I get bishop f6, bishop b6 anyway. But b5 is the natural move. It's the natural move. Here, interestingly, the engine actually likes knight c4. After bc4, bishop c4, if pawn e6, we have queen b7. And the bishop is cut off from allowing rook to c8, and we will be winning back our piece with interest. But queen d5 is the easy move. And this is just a fork, because the queen is cut off and the knight is left undefended. So bishop d7 is the only move to defend, and then we have to find knight e5, the only follow-up. This can't be taken, because queen a8, queen d8, and I mean, worst case scenario, I can just trade queens, castle queenside, be up in exchange. Although I can do even better. But queen c7, trying to hold things together. Here, I completely missed the fact that the bishop was hanging. I completely missed that. I also have knight d7. Queen can't take because of this. If the king takes, then I assume rook d8 or castle queenside. King here, here. I mean, it's all completely winning. All completely winning. But I castle queenside, which is inaccurate, but it's still game over. Here, I have to say, I didn't actually realize that black could castle queenside. Now, the game is still completely winning because I have moves like knight f7. I also have moves like knight b5 the engine likes, or bishop b5. I was saying there's very likely going to be a sacrifice over there. Like knight b5. I don't even know where. I mean, the engine wants this. Knight a7, if take, the queen hangs. This is all very complicated. Realistically, if black had done this, I'd probably just take on f7, and I'm still winning. Like, knight f6 counter-attacking. Here the engine suggests knight b5, but just queen f3 is fine. I'm going to win in exchange, and I'm already up a pawn, so no worries. But yeah, after knight e5, I can take the rook, of course. The problem is that if you try rook to d8 defending, then queen f7 is now mate. If you try pawn e6, I just take the bishop, and I'm going to be up a piece after take, take, and take. Up a piece. If you try knight to f6, then again I take here, and you still are in no better shape after knight d7, knight d7. Here the engine likes bishop b5, but there's many other things I can do. But yeah, I obviously should have taken on f7 immediately, but this is still winning. After queen a8, bishop c8, we have bishop to b6, which to me is the easiest move to play because there's way too many threats. This can't be taken because of mate. And after queen z6, there is mate in 1 with rook to d8. So, yeah. That's a pretty lovely game. It was not perfect, but it does demonstrate just how strong the Alapin Sicilian is, I think. And I think hopefully you guys can see why I am so excited to learn more about the Alapin, because it does stuff like this against strong players. So if you want to see the video I did yesterday in the Alapin, which is far more positional but really satisfying, check out the video up there if you haven't seen it already. And if you want to see the entire climb to and beyond 2200, check out the playlist down there. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in one of those videos.